how do I know when to start? Or how do I know when to make the leap? Maybe it's like my career to like my side hustle, or like going full time in my side hustle. I want to hear from you, from the expert, what does it mean to manifest? And what does that term, what does it actually mean?
Oh my gosh, this is like my favorite question to answer because I also agree it became this buzzword last year. And I have a very strong opinion about it because I
Wow.
was reading articles of how people were portraying it. And it was basically like, think positive thoughts and your life will magically change. That was the watered down version. But then I remember reading an article in a very well published magazine that was it was so one tracked and small minded and like very close minded. I was like, what's going on here? Like, where did this definition come from? So if I could put it in the most simplest of terms, my way to explain it would be visualizing it plus action is manifestation. And I think people put the word on a pedestal. So they think you can only manifest a designer bag or a new job or a
Yeah.
guy or whatever. And I'm like, if you think about doing laundry today and you do it, you just manifested doing laundry. If you think about taking a shower and then you go take a shower, you manifest taking a shower. I am so big on definitions and what words mean that if everyone wants to stop right now and go Google the definition of manifestation, it is to bring something in your mind's eye to reality. So that's why I use the shower example and the laundry example, because we do that every day. I think another great example is going to a meeting, right? When you have a big meeting, you don't just go in unprepared. You're like, okay, who's going to be there? I need to dress a certain way. I need to have a presentation ready. I need my notes. I'm thinking about how this meeting is going to go. And then I'm going to go do the meeting. And because I prepped for it and thought about it, I'm going to probably nail it or at least not completely flop the meeting. So you just manifested a great meeting. Now, the issue is, again, people have now slapped it onto only being about material possessions and items. And I think it got kind of caught up in this web of, I call it like bubblegum manifestation, where it's just like almost toxic positivity of, just be positive and you'll attract everything you want in your life, including a Chanel bag and a Louis Vuitton. And that's manifestation. And I'm like, I'm not okay with that definition at all. So as you can see, I'm getting like fired up about it, but I think it's just visualization, action, and like believing that it will happen for you. That's manifestation.
I love that. I mean, I feel like you're so spot on. I feel the same way about like, the whole trend that was like the girl boss trend. Like I talk openly about that, about this, like all of a sudden it became like you even said, like a bubblegum word. Like it was just carelessly thrown out everywhere. So okay. So let's get back to your business. Let's get back to what you do. So how do you help and serve your clients?
So last year, when I started my business, it was heavily focused on the mindset and manifestation content. And I wanted to show people the power of their thoughts and choosing different stories. So I created courses, masterclasses, and private client mentorship where we worked one-on-one to identify, or in the group programs, to identify where are you now and where do you want to be? And then what are very practical action items to get there? My whole business is run on like practicality, things you can easily integrate, and action items. I would hate if someone came to a workshop of mine and was like, I don't know what she's talking about. And that all sounded like fluff and I can't do anything with it. That is like my worst nightmare. So I'm like, I know this is, again, the problem with manifestation content. People are like, just surrender. And you're like, well, what the hell does surrender mean? Like, I need an action item for that because humans, we need like steps laid out. So that's what I did for like the first 6 months of my business was, let's break down all these esoteric and vague concepts and make it very actionable for your daily life and just see what happens and how we can move forward. So that's what I did for a while. Then I focused just on private clients for most of 2021. And just in the past few months, I've now started actually podcast coaching because I realized the power of podcasting. I've had my podcast for 4 years. So that's something is now a new segment of my business where I'm running. I'm teaching people how to launch a podcast, how to interview, how to book guests. So that's a really fun piece of my business now. And just experimenting with what I like. I think we're all multifaceted human beings and I know you just launched a new product and I'm sure that was like a whole new baby for you. That's how I feel about business is like, I don't ever just want to be stuck in one thing.
Sure.
So now I'm really focused on self-expression and mindset of like, why do we have trouble really saying what we want to say or dressing how we want to dress? And those are things that I'm really passionate about right now. So that's my focus now is like mindset, self-expression and podcasting.
I love that. So do you have like any like tangible tips for maybe an entrepreneur that's listening right now and they're like, I want to go out and maybe start my own business or I have this side hustle. I would love to hear something that's a little bit more tangible because I think you're so spot on like we hear all these things, they're very vague. Surrendering is like exactly I felt that in my heart because like when my coach is like, we need to be in a state of surrender right now. I need you just to receive. It is the hardest to wrap your mind around of like what that looks like and what that actually means in terms of like doing or action or things like that. So do you have any tips that you want to maybe share that are a little bit more tangible?
Yeah. So I think because I know your audience is probably either new entrepreneurs or maybe a few years into business,
Mm-hmm.
I would say like a very tangible thing. I guess what would be more helpful too, is there like maybe a subject or an issue that you see a lot of your audience deal with?
Yeah. So let's maybe do like, how do I know when to start or how do I
Mm,
know when to make the leap from like
okay.
maybe it's like my career to like my side hustle or like going full time in my side hustle.
Okay. So if I could do anything over my business again, I would have practically made a savings account that was just for my business.
Mm,
I did the thing of like, take the leap of faith and everything will work out. And I was like,
sure.
holy shit, I have no money and I need to get a website, graphic designer, a VA, like all these things. And I had to take out a lot of different credit cards, ask my parents for money. I was using tax savings. That, in my opinion, was not the best way to go about entrepreneurship. If
Okay.
I would start again, and if anybody even has a side job right now or a full-time job, create a new bank account or savings account, name it what your business is, and start funneling a bit of your paycheck into that so that
Mhm.
when you have a certain amount of money in there, you can feel comfortable in making that leap or that jump. Now,
Wow, that's a
that's
great,
a
great tip.
yeah, that was the biggest thing I feel like I messed up was like thinking like, oh, the money will just come. I'll have an amazing client base fresh out the gate. And I was like, I don't even have money to like get Zoom software. Like I was so broke when I started my business. So I think that's big. And then also when do you know? I don't think there's a perfect time, but I do think it's safer when you have the pot of money to fall back on
Mhm.
versus scrambling and you're like, oh my God, that's when we hide and we're like, see, it didn't work. I shouldn't have done it. Instead of being
Sure.
like, actually, I saved like a good chunk of money and I'm going to keep experimenting until something sticks.
Yeah, I love that. And I kind of want to go into, first off, I think that's genius. I think that there's a lot of free advice out there that is very, like you said, like it's vague, like, oh, you'll know when to jump or just start when you're 95% ready, which is like, again, something that I truly believe in. But I also believe in too, like, do your research, like, look at your funding, look at your budget, like, where are you going to go next? Like, what are these key measurements that like you're going to be able to achieve or what goals are you going to be able to hit? So let's talk about like knowing because I want to hear your thoughts on like intuition in business and like how to walk through a mindset that a lot of entrepreneurs, come up against where it's like the fraud mindset, not believing in themselves, not having that trust or that faith to take the next step or the next leap. How do you help your clients with those kind of mindsets?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing that I try to tell everybody is like find evidence to counteract the thought that you're having, which in a
Mm,
professional sense is called reframing. So, for example, this happens all the time with my new clients. They want to launch a program or course and they're like, oh my gosh, but it's so similar to that one girl that just launched this, or I feel like I'm copying this girl. And
mhm,
I ask them, okay, I want you to pinpoint that exact person you're talking about and whatever their business is or their class or their course. Now I want you to go out and find literally 5 to 10 things that are just like it, because I guarantee you'll find 100. And I want you to pinpoint what is it about those things or about the course that you invested in that you think you're copying that makes it different than the others. It's probably the person's personality, their price point, their branding, their perspective. we're all actually talking about very similar things, just in different ways. It's not that unique to talk about business or wellness or branding. It's just we're talking about it in our own way. But somehow people think because one person talked about astrology, they can't talk about astrology. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense. As humans, everything in my podcast queue right now is pretty much all the same type of content. But I like one because they're funnier. I like one because they're really practical. One has short episodes. So that's what I try to tell my clients is like, you need to go find evidence that whatever thought you're having isn't true. So that's from like a copying or I'm not unique standpoint is no one's that, and I hate to burst everyone's bubble. No one's like that unique that that their ideas are like unheard of. Sure. It's just that they're presenting them in a different way, or they found a really innovative or disruptive way to go about marketing it. But again, it's not that unique to talk about X, Y, or Z.